Kellie with the do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
It's the do for me.
Thank you. So I got to get off a little early.
Okay, well, let's get started then.
Boom, shakalaka.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Workforce Podcast. This is a platform for us PKs to come talk our talk. My name is Rudy Wilson. I am one of your hosts, PKs. We got Kellie Lee in the building, Janessa Rowland in the building, Terry Easy in the building. Terry, how you doing, man? We ain't seen you in 2 weeks.
I know it.
Well, last week was my fault. That one was just me. I came home, I did my work, I did my reports and everything. I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up, it was like almost 9 o'clock.
There you go.
I was like, oh no, I messed up. Like that was the and then the week before, it just ironically, it's just coincidental that it happened because
you in New York.
I was in New York. I was on vacation. I was doing comedy. That was great. I'm actually they sent me the video, so I'm about to put out the video from one of the gigs.
Nice.
Yeah, no, they got me a nice pro video, good quality, from one of those shows. So it wasn't the show with Mark Norman, but it was. I mean, I'm normally pretty humble when it comes to comedy and stuff. I'm just like, it's all subjective and it's what you like and what you don't like and blah, blah, blah. But the video I've watched several times now, and no, I brought the house down on that one. I did. I brought the absolute house down. It was great. Like they were laughing at premises. It was crazy. So
Congrats, man. That's what's up.
That's amazing. Definitely want to check out the video when you post it.
Well, yeah, it was a bucket list moment for me.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
It was like when I got to perform at the Comedy Store one time out in LA. Like that's the church for any comedian, That's St. Peter's Cathedral. Like that's
All right.
And I felt the same way about doing it in New York. I was like, oh, this is Mecca. And I get to do it. So
that's what's up, man. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Glad to have you back.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks. Sorry about last week. I just fucked up. So.
Thank you for your honesty.
That's fine. We are all infallible, are we not?
We are.
Jay Rihanna, how are you?
I know I said that wrong, but it's fine.
I'm good. School's kicking my butt this semester. I'm just really struggling to be motivated. And the class is environmental health, so I should be excited because this is what I want to do.
Right.
But I'm struggling with that. But other than that, the foot is better.
Good.
I can move around a little bit better.
What happened to your foot?
I broke my foot.
You broke your foot?
Yes, Terry. I'm in a boot for 6 weeks.
Sorry.
It's all right. But it's better. This was my first week back because I took off last week from work. And I don't know why I thought I should go to my field site. And it's been pouring down in Atlanta. And, try to do work like normal. I was out there slipping and sliding. And thankfully, my coworkers were able to help me. But I learned a lesson today. I'm not.
Know your limitations. That's what you don't have to be Superman, but you don't have to be weak. It's just about where your level is.
Yeah, it was a bad decision trying to walk on wet grass and in a boot, a cloth boot. Sock was all wet.
I feel you so much on this particular issue.
Did you break your foot?
No, I've never broken a bone in my life, but just getting older, you know, just as I've gotten older, like it didn't really hit me till I was about 35. But then when I got to be 40, I was like, I can't sleep on the couch anymore. Like I'm just, if I sleep on the couch, I've ruined the next day. You know what I mean? Like it's
The neck cramp.
I don't know. Just
The
whatever. Just wherever anything meets any other thing is just ruined. You know, if that's spinal columns or if it's your hip to your leg or your shoulder or your arm or whatever, like all your joints are just worthless after a certain point.
But that's
I
it.
know I'm a ray of sunshine this week.
Kellie Lee.
Kellie's hair looks great.
Thank you, Terry.
Oh, if I could just put something out on the positive side.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Nah, I'm doing well. Can't complain. Actually, a lot has happened today. And I'm grateful for wonderful people in my life. Rudy being one. I called Rudy. I needed some advice.
Well, now I know it's a lie.
And Rudy, guys, gives very neutral opinions rooted in experience and faith. So very helpful. So Rudy, on the podcast, thank you. I appreciate you. I just send a text like, hey, I need you. Then I sent another text and said, never mind, I see you at 7. And then he still called because he heard that Kellie really didn't mean never mind. She
needed to talk to you.
she was just talking. But yes, on the podcast to all of our 500 million followers.
Sure.
Rudy, thank you. I appreciate that today. That helped more than you know. Amen. Cutting out a little early today. You see, I got on my True to Atlanta. I guess whatever. Yeah, just gonna
no, show it again. It's fine. I'm halfway there.
What I thought was important to note, though, so this whole thing about preachers' kids, and I've talked a lot about being younger and my feeling like I wasn't always first. In my dad's life as a pastor. And so I called him today and was just like, hey, got some tickets to the game, not sure what you're doing tonight, do you want to go? And he was just like, oh, this was like 6:00. And he was just like, oh, well, I got an evangelist meeting tonight from 7:30 to 8:30. What time's the game? I'm like, it's at 8. He was just like, whatever. So we started talking about some other stuff. We get off the phone. He was like, if I get a revelation in the next 20 minutes, I'll call you back. So anyway, 6:30. 6:30, he calls back, canceled his evangelist class tonight to come with me to the game. Yeah, meant the absolute world to me.
We find out Kevin been watching our episodes on the street. We know it.
And you know what? And it's so funny because actually, so we were talking about my evening, and I was like, yeah, I got the podcast at 7. I asked him, we usually do it at 7:30. I asked him to move it up because I didn't know if I was going to the game. I may go by myself, blah, 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 blah. So I may not go, not really sure. And so he had asked, we hadn't talked about the podcast since we first started back in 2020. And so he was like, remind me of the podcast again. And so I was telling him about it. And I'm like, yeah, we got Terry, who's just Terry.
All the wall. It's fine. You can say it. It's fine.
And I said, who's just Terry. And I said, we got Pastor Rowland's daughter and Rudy and blah, 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 whatever.
Why don't you just say, like, we got the 2 nice girls and then we got these 2 weird guys that come on and say terrible things.
Right. And so I said, it's real, like, out of the box, whatever. I said, Rudy smokes. I said, so you see him smoking a blunt. And I said, and Terry, he smokes a drink. So he has his beer. I said, the most that me and Janessa do. I said, we may have a glass of wine that we've hidden in something else.
No, I've made it a point. I have made it a point. Like, even when I don't feel like having a beer, I'll still have one near me just so I can take a sip. Like, it's a point of principle for me. It really is.
I feel that.
And so I told him, I said, so it was really out the box. I was like, even Janessa said to us one time that it was hard for her. I said, Janessa's over guest, and that it was hard to get guests because, everything is just, just not the traditional whatever.
Nobody wants to be canceled.
Right. And I was just like, I said, and Rudy, started this whole thing and, whatever. So I kind of went through everybody and I said, Terry's the only white guy. And I said, and, his experience is different from all of ours. So
It's very much true.
And so then he gave me, then my dad's so cute. So then I told him the topic for the day. And so he goes, well, Google this and see if this can help you find. So he's trying to help me with a sermon for the.
Thank you, Pastor Lee, so much for your contribution to the worst one.
Right, exactly. I didn't do it, but because then I had to get ready to go. So,
look, you should have sent it to me because I would have looked it up.
I feel like you and your father and me would have long discussions that may get heated. I don't know.
And my dad isn't really an escalate type of person, so it would be interesting. But I did tell him,
I don't know I don't know, man. When you talk about religion, things bubble up like a level of. I've seen a level of anger when it comes to religion that I've never seen. Like I have people in my family where if I say a thought that doesn't jive, you know what I mean? Or kind of maybe flies in the face with something they've believed their whole life, like they get real defensive. I mean, like aggressively. Hey, you're not gonna say that in my house or whatever. Like real super. And then I always remember what my uncle told me. He's like, anytime somebody gets super upset, it's not because you're wrong. It's because they're afraid you might be right. You know what I mean? Like they're insecure in what they're saying and you're challenging it. And then that's why they become super aggressive because they can't handle the idea of challenging what they already know to be true. You know what I mean? What? Yeah, it's totally regressive when you talk about human beings, but it's like I'd rather be dumb in the past than smart in the future.
Just make sure, Kelly, when y'all go to the game tonight, that your dad has a beer just for the worst ones.
Sure, yeah.
He will not.
He won't.
Just in the spirit of the worst ones.
He will not. And I told him.
Well, just give him a glass of wine and tell him it's the blood of the Lord.
Right.
Hashtag Eric Myers. Rest in peace.
We should get some T-shirts made for the dads that says "the worst ones, Dad."
We should.
Dads of the worst ones.
The hashtag the worst dads.
The worst dads.
That's what it is. The worst dads.
That's two things, Janessa. Now you got to get a onesie for Janae, and now you got to get.
You guys say it like you say it, and I even said it, and everybody says it. But I remember my dad looked at me once when I was like 25, where I basically had become a whole person and I was like taking care of myself and doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and he looked at me and he said, he's like, yeah, because I had mentioned something. I'm like, yeah, the preacher's kids, they're always the worst ones. And he looked at me and he goes, I'm so happy you're not an addict. Like, he's like, I was so, and he said it in a way where I was like, I was so betting on you being way worse.
Oh no.
He's like, no, you just say things that are terrible. That's fine. You don't have to do those things. Just say them.
That's right. So, but yeah, that's how I'm doing. I did tell him my dad that we were going to invite him one day. But I told him that the worst ones would be on their best behavior when that day comes. And he asked, how many people watch our podcast weekly.
You know what?
You told him the truth. 500 million.
I said, but Rudy wants to wait until we get to
800 million.
Right. Right. I was trying, 1 billion people. I'm trying to get 1 billion people before we get the Father Zone. Right. I said, so that day will come. I said, when I do my job with social media, then that day will come.
Amen.
Hey, I've been trying to get my dad on here for some time now.
And what?
Huh? But Rudy keeps telling me to wait. Oh. He's like, wait, we'll do. I don't see doing the fathers all at once. That's crazy.
Oh, that's too
I'm
much.
not doing.
No,
I'm not,
that's way
I'm not
too
doing them all
much.
at once. I'm ne- I
But
never,
we need
I never,
one
I
to
never,
do
I,
it
I
Father's
never,
Day, though.
I never said anything about them coming all at once. But I just,
I
feel-
think it's time.
I don't.
I think it's time. I think it's time to do one a month. That's what I think.
I think at least one for Father's Day.
One a month is what I think.
It maybe not have to be.
Nah.
Or maybe Father's Day's coming up. Maybe one a week during Father's Day month or something like that.
Or like Kellie just said, if Kellie does her job by next Father's Day,
next Father's Day,
then it'll be perfect timing.
Maybe for Father's Day we can find somebody who's a pastor and who's a PK.
Demetrius McCoy.
Whoa, I was gonna say that's
Or I mean, it could be anybody.
That's thick lure you're throwing out there.
We can figure it out, but let's get it going because Kellie does have to leave. I'm doing fine.
All right.
I'm healthy. I'm blessed. All that stuff. Okay.
We don't worry about you. You smoke enough weed, you're gonna be okay.
Hey man. Hey man. Truest thing you said on this podcast. All right.
What? Listen, I never worry about pot smokers because they're always gonna figure out a way to get more pot. So, which means the rest of their life is gonna be fine around it.
All right, Terry. The ball's in your court. Go for it.
Does God have a sense of humor? I've heard this question asked before. I've answered it myself. I'm going to reserve my answer to see what you guys' is. But yeah, does God have a sense of humor? We supposedly are made in his image. So if we have a sense of humor, then you might naturally think that he does. But in other verses, it tells us that we'll never be wise enough to know his ways. So I guess my bigger question is, does God have a sense of humor, and is it better than ours?
Well, I think everything with God is better than ours.
That's true.
Right.
But
okay, so his sense of humor is better than ours. So, but it really depends on like what you define as better when it comes to a sense of humor. Because some people have a very mild sense of humor. It doesn't take much. A knock joke has them in stitches. Other people, their sense of humor is a lot darker, so it has to kind of be real at the same time. And I'm sure that I'm not the only person in this conversation that knows what I'm talking about, that spends their time around comedy all the time. But the different types of comedy, and everybody, it's always very subjective to what people like and what they don't like. So if God does have a sense of humor, like, what do you think it might be?
And that's what I was really going to get at here. I think it's
is
more
it
or less,
dark? Is it like, oh my, look, he died on the same day he was born. That's amazing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, right. That's what I was going to say. I think it's more or less what type of sense of humor, because even to your point, I feel like every human has a sense of humor. It's just depending on what they find humorous. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody finds something funny, but everybody doesn't find, all the subject matters or whatever funny. So, like, do I think that God has one? Yeah, I mean, I've never been asked this question, but I've heard people say this a million times, like, oh, God got a, sense of humor too, or whatever the case may be. Like when something happens, and I never knew if they were trying to say it literally, or were they it was just another, figurative saying or whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I don't see that being far-fetched of him having a sense of humor, but what he actually finds funny, I don't know if that exists in the sense of him as one entity. Like, okay, because I think he could possibly find funny everything that each individual person finds funny, because he created us individually. So, he put that sense of humor inside each one of us because something about it is there.
Yeah. Well, like, masturbation's got to be hilarious to him, right? Like, that's got to be. I don't know if that's got to be the most hilarious thing ever, at least, again, from my point of view. But no, it's like, first of all, let me put a finer point on this. I know God has a sense of humor. It's because he created the platypus. You know what I mean? Like here's a mammal that lays eggs, gives breast milk, has flippers and fins and a tail of a beaver and the beak of a duck.
Right.
Like that's a joke, right? Like it's got to be a joke. Like it had to be like when he was just, hung over and he just said, let me throw this out here and see if anybody notices. Like it had to be something.
And that's
like,
what I'm
what
saying.
other purpose does that animal serve?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, so in the sense of like that particular, like the platypus being funny to you or to other people, or like just say then maybe somebody
it's
tripping and falling.
objectively funny.
But I'm saying, but somebody tripping and falling can be funny to somebody else. Somebody doing self-deprecating jokes can be funny to somebody else. Somebody roasting Christians can be funny to somebody
100%,
else.
yeah.
So it's with all these things, I think that it's hard for me to distinctly say what God would find funny, but I definitely feel like he did give everybody their own sense of humor, even for the things that are dark, for the things
I
that
think
are
it's
like.
I think it's funny that Janessa.
Hold on,
I think it's funny that Janessa and Kellie are messaging each other and they don't think that we know.
We're not actually.
Yeah,
I hear the thing going off.
No, that's Kellie's phone. She always be texting and shit. I be getting on her about this. That's why her face was doing this when he was going whoop. She was like,
yeah, but I saw both of them looking off on their screens, so it just breadcrumbs.
I mean, this is just happened when me and you start getting into our deep debates. But
yeah, that's true. Us and our penises always getting in the way.
But I'm saying, like, so I feel like God put, it's hard for me to think that anything that exists, God didn't have a hand in. You know what I'm saying? Like good or bad, whether, right. Because if you're the creator and you're this God that we're taught that you are, I don't feel like anybody else can have like a level of control, but you have, all control at the same time. So even with like somebody having a dark sense of humor, you can only have a dark sense of humor if dark humor exists. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that dark humor exists like because the devil going around saying, hey, now you're dark, you're dark, you're dark, you're dark, you're dark. Like God created us with whatever sense of humor it is that we have. So that's why I was saying that it may be a chance that he may find everything funny that he put in each individual person, or maybe he don't laugh at nothing we laugh at. His sense of humor is something totally different. And us as humans, we just all have our level of it. So the answer to the question, I think we all agree on, at least me and you, Terry, is does God have a sense of humor? I think we both agree, yes. I don't know
I'm
how.
Just more worried about what
type,
is.
right? Exactly. Me and same with me. I don't know if I can definitively answer that because I don't know.
Well, I mean, but look at the story of Job.
Wait, let Kellie go because she got to leave.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, right. Do I think God has a sense of humor? Yes. Do I think that God, as He made each one of us individually, as you guys have already stated, gave us humor and things that we find funny and that we laugh at and find joy in and those type of things. And so I think that would come from a space in which he has as well. Mm-hmm. Also, kind of like what Rudy said earlier, like I've heard a lot of people talk about, like I've heard older people say, God sure does have a funny sense of humor. God sure does have a sense of humor or something like that. And I guess I always interpret it, I don't know if it's wrong, as when you kind of try to make your own plan versus God's plan and God shows you his way.
Right.
When usually the way in which he shows you is, you may find, not funny, but funny in terms of, sure. God's, what his will is, what his plan is, that it's always going to happen in the end. Mm-hmm. And so, his sense of humor was finding it funny that we decided or we thought that something was going to go one way or that we were going to do this thing. And he said, got you.
Right.
Let me show you this. Right. So I definitely feel like.
So God's kind of screwing with us for his own humor.
I don't know if he's screwing with
Look at this idiot and what he did here.
But I think, back to, and I don't want to get back into the conversation because I know we've had it a lot, just, the free will conversation and, whatever. But when we, you know, decide as a people, like, hey, I'm gonna do this, or, you know, I'm gonna be in this relationship, or I'm gonna stay with this job, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do this, and God has already told you this isn't it, and He keeps showing you this isn't it. You know, I feel like sometimes, right, not that He's screwing with you, I don't like that term, but, you know, He shows His sense of humor in, I'm gonna keep shutting this off, or I'm gonna keep cutting this off somewhere, because this isn't my will, and this is
So basically, God is a Maury Povich audience that just wants to hear you're not the father,
no,
or you are the father.
Well, see, what if Kellie? Because that's still human interpretation. I'm not talking about you, human. I'm saying even the people who said it, like, you want to hear God laugh, like, tell
what
me
other interpretation are we gonna have?
No. Listen to what I'm saying. If you want to hear God laugh, like, tell me your plans. And what I'm saying is, like, God may, you know, understand that us as humans, like, we're gonna try to choose one path, and then He'll eventually get us back over here. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's part of His sense of humor. That just may be just because of how He created things. That doesn't necessarily mean that. And I'm not saying this to combat your point, or to even say that you or anybody's wrong. But I'm saying that I feel like if God does have a sense of humor, it wouldn't even be, and this is just my opinion, it wouldn't even be as low-hanging fruit as that, because that is something that we would laugh at. Like, oh, you thought you was doing this? Psych, gotcha, you going this way. Like, that's a human pettiness trait. You know what I'm saying? Which is why, to Terry's point, he's like, so what you saying, God's toying with us? Because, like, that's something that humans would do. You know what I'm saying? And once again, He could be cracking up laughing. I don't know. But I'm saying that my level of respect for God makes Him, I guess, His sense of humor be a little bit more prestigious than, you know, than just the toying trick.
But, you know, I know how much you guys love Scripture. So Scripture as basis for fact. So what happened to the one that God created us for His own enjoyment, for His own entertainment? Like, maybe He is laughing a lot. Like, maybe we're His friends, or His Seinfeld, or His Martin, or His Chappelle Show, or, you know what I mean? Like, maybe we just are His enjoyment. And to what Rudy said earlier about, you know, He's in control of everything. That's true. But He's in control of everything, in my opinion, at least, the same way that you're in control of everything if you get a big fish tank and put it in your house. You can put that big fish tank in your house, and you can decide what kind of vegetation to put in. You could decide what kind of rocks to put in it, what kind of fish to put in it, what kind of this. But if you just leave it there, things are just going to naturally grow and come without your intervention. You know what I mean? So maybe that's the same situation with God. Like, He started us off, but we've kind of, like, it's that if you've never heard the mixture of creationism and evolution together, you know, like, God created the earth, that's true, but then everything just naturally evolved as we went along. The same way that mildew would grow in your tank. You didn't plan for mildew. You didn't plant it in there, but it just came along based on the world you created.
But that's what I'm saying.
Doesn't mean you're not Lord of that world.
But
it just means.
But I feel like you cannot plan for mildew if you're a person who's, like, getting into fish tanks, and then you don't know that's the thing. But if I created everything, I also created mildew. You feel what I'm saying? I know where mildew comes from. So, like, God's perspective wouldn't be like something that just pops up, or like a surprise.
No, that's not necessarily true, because you're talking about, you're just creating a world. You're creating a reality in which certain scientific principles exist. You know, so if you have a damp area that's dark and warm, mold will grow.
Right, but
it doesn't mean you created the mold. You just created the situation for the mold to grow.
But I'm saying, but that's just like saying, if you take water and freeze it, it becomes ice. Like, if you take the water and freeze it, you're still a part of the because water is not going to freeze itself. It has to be put into a cold temperature. You know what I'm saying? So that's right. That's the human aspect of it. But I'm saying, coming from God, like, if I created everything, if I created mold, and I created the way that it comes about. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
So So,
but
go ahead.
You're kind of banging up against a brick wall, because if you're saying that God can do anything, you're also saying that God can't create a world where life springs forth on its own. Do you know what I mean?
I'm saying it can. It can, and he also be aware at the same time. Like it can, because he created it that way. Like if I create a process for something to happen, that's just like with a baby. Like God created humans, but there's also a process that how humans can continue to be created that he set up. So like he didn't find out that once a man ejaculated into a woman, a baby came out, and then he was like, oh, okay, that's how babies are made. He knew that because that's how he set it up.
Well, yeah. But I also think that that's part, in circling back to the subject of the day. I think that is his sense of humor. I think he created this universe and wanted to see what would happen. if he created it, he messed around with it a few thousand years ago. Then he kind of just said, all right, you guys go on your own. We'll see what happens. And I think he loves watching it. I think he loves watching, like, oh, look at this. No, they're separating each other by color. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, he's just laughing at it going, no, it depends on where you're born. That defines where, you know what I mean? I think to him, it just seems stupid. All of our decisions and everything we hold sacred is kind of dumb to him. And he finds a lot of enjoyment in that. That's what I think.
Well, I don't agree with that necessarily.
It is a radical theory. That's fine.
It is. I think partially because, we got Jesus, which is essentially God, if you believe, the Trinity. And the characteristics of Jesus on earth, there are times where he literally, it says Jesus what? The shortest verse in the Bible. And that literally shows us that Jesus had compassion. Jesus understood sadness. Jesus understood grief. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But also there are times in the Bible where Jesus, was at weddings when he changed water into wine. It could be a stretch of the imagination to say that he was having a good time there. So who is to say that there's been times in the Bible, I probably need to read it a little bit better myself, where Jesus, was laughing and joking with the other disciples and other people and the other believers and Christians and people he met with on his journey. Like, who is to not say that didn't happen? And I believe that if those are characteristics of Jesus, then those are also characteristics of God. Now,
do you think that Jesus did like a lot of Jew jokes because he's Jewish?
To what extent his, like, what he finds funny, what he doesn't find funny, I can't say that, but I don't think God would find it funny when he talks about helping the needy, helping the poor, helping the widows, whatever, and somebody or something is making a joke or something towards a category that God has instructed us to care for. I don't think he would be joking about that. I don't think he'd be. But go ahead.
Finish.
I think he could joke about it. Just he wouldn't make it like law.
Well, this is the interesting thing, and even because this was, this definitely has come up plenty of times. What I'm about to bring up, but it definitely came up with the recent Will Smith Chris Rock situation. As far as like somebody getting offended, I'm not talking about the slap. I'm just saying somebody being offended by a joke. And with comedy, I'm telling you, I can stand firm in saying that every joke, I'm talking about whether you're, and I'm not just talking about like in stand-up comedy. I'm saying if you sitting around the house, if you whatever, any joke that is ever told has the capability of being offensive to somebody.
Sure, 100%.
Because and it's normally who the joke is about. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's not about you, it's easy to laugh at other people. But you know what I'm saying? Like if somebody was making fun of white people, black people can laugh all day. But if somebody made a black joke, it'd be like, "Whoa, hey, what you mean by that?" You know what I'm saying? Like because so
It's because white people have better sense of humor. That's
there's always room for that, but I feel like when it comes down to, like, once again, the creator allowing comedy, laughter to exist, like jokes are told or made or acted out, whatever, and then people laugh in return. But that doesn't mean everybody's going to find it funny. And not only everybody may not find it funny because comedy is subjective, but then there's also another group who also may be offended. And so that's why I go back to God or maybe God doesn't find anything funny, but he allows humor to exist even with the susceptibility for it to be offensive, because laughter is good for the soul. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's necessary. Can somebody go too far in their own human brain? Sure. You know what I'm saying? Some jokes are just flat out offensive, period. But in the sense of telling a joke and you thinking it's kind of lighthearted, but somebody else taking offense, that can always happen. And God knows that can always happen, which means that he either thinks all these things that each one of us individually think is funny is also funny, or he doesn't think anything is funny, and he just allows us to just have our individual sense of humor. And I'm not trying to put him in just one or two boxes, but that's
I can't buy into the fact that he doesn't have a sense of humor. Like, he has to. You know what I mean?
But
like,
I'm saying
we take life. I'm just saying we take earthly life very seriously because it's all we know, right?
Right.
But when you try to think about, like, God's perspective on things, you have to think about them from an eternal kind of way.
Right.
Like, of course he thinks we're funny. He has to. Like,
no. Hold on, wait.
Hang on, let me put a finer point on it before you.
Before you keep going, I want you to be clear on, because I'm not saying that he doesn't think that we're funny. I'm not saying I can agree to disagree with that, but I'm saying, does he think that everything that we like? So for the people who have dark humor, does he think that's funny as equally to the people who have light humor?
Yes, he thinks it's all funny. He thinks life is funny. I mean, because when you think about it, again, you have to look at it from God's perspective, from an eternal point of view. Us, we're looking at maybe 80, maybe 90 years on Earth, if you're lucky.
Right.
You know what I mean? To him, it's got to seem more just, I've always thought about it like it's got to seem more like a test, Like, if you can do 80 years on Earth and not mess up, then you get to come to heaven. And why would we... this is going to give me a whole tangent, but it's like people that preach prosperity faith, about how God wants you to be prosperous on Earth. Why would he want you to be prosperous on Earth? You're only spending 8-9 decades here, but you're going to spend eternity in heaven, literally a paradise of his own invention that you can't even imagine. Why can't you suffer for 8 or 9 decades before that? You know what I'm saying? Like, why do we have to have it the best way all the time? Why can't we just have a part where we pay for it and then a part where we get it?
Well, he also says on Earth as it is in heaven.
On Earth, but he also says those on Earth that are last in line will be first in line in heaven, and those that are first in line on Earth will be last in line in heaven.
Right.
Basically meaning how, as good as you get it here, you're going to get the opposite up there. Why wouldn't that sounds like a joke to me already.
But you're also placing first in place based off of a monetary value, and that doesn't necessarily have to be true.
No, I mean a happiness value.
But I'm saying, but people can be
I don't judge myself on monetary worth. I judge myself on happiness.
But I'm saying, but you're happy without being the richest person in the world. But that doesn't mean that you have to suffer. Like, being happy and suffering those can't happen.
No, but they do go hand in glove. I've known 3 billionaires in my life, and every single one of them was the most miserable person I've ever met.
I didn't say rich and suffering. I said happy.
Okay.
You can't be happy and suffering at the same time.
Sure, you can.
No,
that's crazy.
You're suffering. How? Like, I'm not saying going, like, I'm not saying like you have a bad day. I'm saying like if somebody is suffering, think about the definition of suffering.
I get it.
And you're trying to tell me that
saying.
While somebody is suffering, they can find room for happiness at the exact same time.
Yes, 100%. Haven't you watched TikTok, the inspirational channels?
I don't
like I've seen quadriplegics that are happier than I am.
That's not suffering. I'm saying suffering.
That's totally suffering, dude. Having
a something like a disability, if you will, like that doesn't necessarily mean that you're suffering. I'm saying like if somebody had you strapped up and they were just pulling out one tooth at a time and you're in suffering, I guarantee you at no point during that teeth pulling will you find any breathing room to be happy. Until that's all said and done, and maybe you recover from it or whatever. But I'm saying suffering and happiness can't happen at the same time.
You're absolutely wrong. Have you ever had your heart broken before?
Yes.
That's suffering and happiness at the same time. You see, the logic behind that is that the only reason you're heartbroken is because you got to receive that love. You know what I mean? And it's not the absence of having that love. It's the absence of having the love you once had. That's what causes that heartbroken feeling. But you should be grateful that you got to experience something in your life that was so important to you that now it breaks your heart. That's suffering and happiness at the same time. No, you should be happy that you get to suffer like that, because there are a lot of people that go through their whole life and never like grasp onto something enough to even have their heart broken. When you think about the fact that some people go through their whole lives from birth to death and never get that heartbroken feeling, that's kind of heartbreaking, isn't it?
People get their heart broken and then become happy later after getting the revelation that you said, but they do not have the simultaneous action or feeling of happiness and the suffering of heartbreak at the exact same time, is what I'm saying.
Well, that's because they just haven't learned it yet. But when you give that information to somebody and go, oh, by the way, I know you're upset because you and such just broke up. And I know you're upset, but just remember, you're only upset because you were able to love somebody enough to be upset. And then it kind of gives them like a new spark in their eye where they're like, oh, shit, that's right. Some people are just, some people are beyond that. Some people go through their whole lives and nobody kisses their face ever, like in their whole life. So I don't maybe just being heartbroken over somebody is a blessing. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, but I still don't see how that changes what I'm saying. But Janessa, you got anything?
Y'all got it.
She talks she talks so little when I'm on here. I feel like she should be on here less so she can have a voice and be heard.
I mean, Kellie spoke to a lot of what I was gonna say, and then I did, have what I had to say. And then my last thought is just personally, I'm of the mindset I don't like to play with God. I don't. If I make him laugh, great. But I'm not ever trying to purposely make him laugh. That's just me.
Well, but you shouldn't be scared of it either. You shouldn't be scared of it because he created you, so he knows what he knows your mind, he knows your heart. We know that. And because he knows your mind and he knows your heart, you should be able to just be honest and just be like, that's kind of hilarious. Some people see a 25-year-old wreck on a skateboard and fall down a flight of stairs or something, and they laugh. And then other people look at it and they're like, oh, God. And then other people freak out and call 911. So it doesn't make any one of those people better than the other. It just makes them different.
I don't think any of that I don't think what we're talking about has anything to do with anybody being better than the other. I think that, once again, whether God has a sense of humor or not, I don't know if that can be written in stone as a yes or no, at least coming from me. But in the sense of, I definitely believe that each individual person on this earth, I feel like each individual level of sense of humor that each individual has, I would say that God is responsible for in some form or fashion. You feel what I'm saying? And with that being said, I mean, all it does is just add to the diversity of people. I mean, everybody's different, and so even if you have similarities, like everybody is their own individual person. Everybody has their own, allergies. Everybody has their own likes and dislikes. Everybody has their own, if they're a cranky person in the morning or at night or whatever. And I think along with all of that, everybody has a sense of humor, and that's due to God. So whether he's participating in everybody's sense of humor, I don't know. But I do think he allowed us all to have one, which is pretty dope, even with the people who have really, really dark, shitty sense of humor. And even for the ones that are, more lighthearted and more, acceptable.
I'll agree with the fact that God wanted everybody to have a sense of humor, but I disagree with the fact that it's just kind of like what you were born with. Because I think that nature over nurture in that particular situation, or nurture over nature in this particular circumstance. Because like if you raised a kid in a house where all you guys did was listen to George Carlin, you get a very different kid with a very different sense of humor than if you raised them in a house where the only person they listen to is Jim Gaffigan, or George or Jerry Seinfeld, something like that. Like I think you get a very different kind of kid.
But each person still gets their version of it, because like there are comedians who I listen to now, older comedians who I listen to now, or because my dad listened to him when I was growing up. But at the same time, there's also people who my dad listened to who I don't think are funny. You know what I'm saying? And I listen to other people who he probably don't listen to, because I still have my own sense of humor, even though I do have an influenced by him when it comes down to liking certain comedians, but I still had my own identity when it came down to the overall.
Yeah, I don't think God had anything to do with that. I think that he just put you here.
You don't think God has anything to do with a lot of things here? So
what did I just say before about the aquarium? I think he set us down in an aquarium and said, "Go," because I want to see what you guys are going to do. But if you give him too much authority in the fact of your day-to-day lives, decisions, what happens to you, the way you feel about things, you're kind of taking away his entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same way that certain people like collect insects and they put them in terrariums or they put them in ant farms. They're not doing it because they know they know exactly what they're going to do. There's no entertainment value in that for them. But if they put them in there and they start doing things that they never thought they were going to do, or they never planned for them to do, like, that's entertaining. Like, how entertaining can it be to watch somebody do exactly what you knew they were going to do? Do you get it?
I mean, yeah.
But again, I'm just using my human intelligence.
No. 100%. I just don't look at. I don't view God that way in the reference of like, don't just throwing a bunch of motherfuckers out there and being like, let's just see what happens. And I'm not trying to make you think otherwise. I'm just saying my viewpoint doesn't come from that angle. So when it comes down to the whole sense of humor aspect, that's where my point of view comes from. Where I can't.
Then why make other planets? Why make other planets at all? Like, why make moons and other planets? Why not just make Earth and then do that and then just leave it at that?
Once again, we got two different views, but I'm saying
I don't know. That's a legitimate question I'm asking.
No. I get you. I've already, you already know my stance on the planet. I ain't never seen them anyway, so I don't have answers about planets. So
I've never seen Africa, but I believe it exists.
But you have seen Africa. What I was going to say. So yeah. But that's why I feel like with the whole sense of humor thing, I just, because I feel like God is in control of everything, and especially when it comes down to the creation of everything. That's why I feel like he's responsible for everybody having their sense of humor. Once again, I'm not going, like, do I think that he has one? Sure. I would like to think God would think stuff is funny. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. So I'm just going to leave it at I don't know. But I definitely feel that dark or light, God allowed us to have those sense of humors, even with him being such a holy person. Even the dark stuff, I think that he still had a hand in my opinion.
Well, I'll say what I want to believe. I want to believe that when you're sick or you're under the weather, you got stomach issues or whatever, and you're trying to rush home so you can go to the bathroom, and you only get like 10 steps away from your door and then accidentally shit your pants, I would like to believe that God is laughing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would, because it's just so depressing otherwise. But if he's laughing, it's like, all right, you got me, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
but to your point, the only way I feel like he could laugh is if he came from the perspective that you say, in the sense of he just put us out here and said go.
Yeah, because
then that you shitting yourself would be a surprise. But if
not even a surprise, but it's funny.
No, but I'm saying a surprise in the sense of, because it isn't predestined. He didn't know it was going to happen, is what I'm saying. So like, it was the element of surprise that, oh, bam.
Yeah, we've discussed this many times. I don't believe in predestined.
That's the point that I'm making. From your angle, from where you believe, that's what I'm saying. Like, God would laugh if somebody shat themselves, because it would be happening in the moment, and then he would react in the moment. But if God created everything, from my perspective, he probably wouldn't laugh, because he would already know that's going to happen. So it's not a funny thing that's happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's already predestined to happen.
The joke is spoiled.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
He wrote the
Why
joke.
would he laugh when he knows what's coming? Yeah. Right. No, I get it. And that's why I think that amongst a million other reasons is why I don't believe in predestiny at all. Because there's no such thing as free will when there's predestiny, because you can't have free will and know exactly what's going to happen at the same time. It's just they are diametrically opposed.
No, I agree with the latter of your statement, for sure.
Yeah. So no, I like to keep the mystery in life. But yes, I absolutely think God has a sense of humor. I don't expect to understand what it is or what type of humor it is, but I like to speculate.
Right. No, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
I'm serious. Like the manatee. Why is the manatee still around? It's ridiculous. It's a ball of snot in the water. It doesn't need a beer.
Oh, okay. Well,
but he keeps it around because it makes him laugh, I guess. I don't know.
All right. Well, Janessa, you gonna do our church announcements?
Oh, dang, I forgot, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You can find us on social media at The Worst Ones PK.
Instagram specifically.
Instagram at The Worst Ones PK. Love for you to follow us. Kelly's gonna post something. You can also watch us or listen to us at YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, all those things. And when you go, make sure you like, comment.
You gotta tell them where they can find us. Places.
Oh, at The Worst Ones Podcast. That's why at The Worst Ones Podcast.
At The Worst Ones Podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all platforms you can find.
If you needed to read, why wouldn't you go to somebody with credits? Why?
I don't get it. It went over my head. I'm sorry, I didn't.
When you're there, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thanks, guys.
And most importantly,
you can find Kelly at Princess Kills 51. Please make sure you follow her and send her a message. I will make sure she accepts your friend request if you send her a message saying you found her via our podcast.
Amen. All right.
And you can find me at Melanated Brews for all things coffee, tea, and beer, where we have fun over there, but we haven't been having fun recently. Don't want to hear about it. Have broke foot. Okay, can't get around this. And then my personal page is at JRihanna_. And that's it.
Hey.
You can find me at Melanated Brews via the coffee, beer, and tea.
Unmelanated brews.
No,
Because
I'm
that's what it is.
melanated. No, I'm melanated. Yeah, I'm only unmelanated on podcasts.
Creamer, no
Terry
coffee.
Wayne Comedy, all social media platforms for anything that I'm doing in the near future.
At the podcast official page, it is a live podcast where we have conversations live on Zoom. If you would like to join that live conversation, it is the last Monday of every month, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Zoom ID is 815-499-0955. If you want to follow any of the social medias or listen to anything, it's YouTube, any platform. It's all Facebook, whatever. It's at the podcast official page.
And next week, all 4 of us are going to be doing the milk crate challenge. So
Wow. That's over and done with. They're not doing that no more.
It doesn't matter. I'm trying to piggyback on these hashtags.
Oh yeah, I wasn't gonna do it when they had it. I'm definitely not doing it now.
What are they bringing it back?
Even if they were.
I'm bringing it back to increase our viewership.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of other challenges that happen that I'd be willing to do. That ain't one of them.
Listen, hey, look,
that's way too.
If we want this viewership to grow, we're gonna have to go jackass at some point.
I mean, listen, you're the white boy of the group, so hey, man, you lead the way, and we'll support you.
That is a terrible decision on your part, and I will not be held responsible for it.
I'm gonna say these are not the views of Janessa Rowland.
That's a smart decision.
Podcast. These are the views of Rudy Wilson and Terry Wayne separately.
But if we start popping, she's gonna be with us though. Don't worry about it.
Oh sure.
We're gonna give her check, and she will be like, "Hey, y'all keep making them videos." Yeah.
Yeah. How many milk crates do I have to climb? Really? Only 7? All right, I'll do 7.
She won't climb it, but she'll start holding the camera. She'll start showing them. I hold the camera.
Yeah.
Y'all go ahead.
Yeah, she'll do the reaction
I will call
shots.
in and pray for y'all. Make sure y'all stay safe.
Rudy will be over there with 3 broken ribs, and Janessa will just be filming it like, oh, he crazy. You know?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not doing it. Not the milk crate challenge. So yeah, if you want to do the cinnamon challenge or some shit, sure, but not milk crate.
The cinnamon.
Oh. You know what I did on my other podcast recently was the Hot Ones challenge, which is if you've seen the YouTube channel, the Hot Ones with the Hot Ones.
Yeah, they eat wings and
they eat wings. They eat wings of like increasing heat until it gets crazy, but they do it with celebrities. And my other podcast, Blame Girl podcast, we did that recently to where we had a guest on, and I got the same sauces that were on the show. Like I ordered them, and I was like, "We'll do it here." Never again.
How far did you get?
All the way. The way. No. And there's one in particular called The Bomb that's just it's insane. It's like taking a drug.
It goes kaboom.
No, it's like taking a drug. Like it literally messes with your head. Like you get vertigo and you get sweats. Like my lips were sweating. I didn't even know lips could sweat, but they were.
That's awesome.
So anytime that Rudy wants to do that, you know,
I don't really like.
I'll do it just to watch him do it. You know?
I don't really like hot stuff, so I wouldn't even make it that far, honestly. I'm not a spicy.
Well, we only had 5, so I think you'd make it through. But
I'm not a spicy guy.
I don't like hot stuff.
Once stuff start getting too spicy, I quit. Easy.
Oh God, I would love to see. I would love to see Rudy just take a teaspoon of Da Bomb, just straight.
Anyways, we got to get out of here. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We really enjoyed you. Shout out to Kellie in her absence. She had to leave early. She's at the Hawks game. Hopefully they win. I don't know who they playing, but and shout out to
hopefully they win.
Shout out to her pops for making the sacrifice to go with her. All righty. Well, we're out, man. Thank you once again. We are the worst ones. Janessa. Hey.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.